I've been told that by the council, by the mayor, everybody. And yet, here we're told, right, if I understand correctly, they want to come to 7.5 feet, which is going to create a big hardship. Well, I had to change, it cost me a lot of money to change my plans from what I wanted to do. And it's a simple thing. I'm going to add just a few feet to add a enlarge a bathroom. They wouldn't let me do that. So they're coming along and they want to take the whole 34th and 33rd Street and cut the setback to 7.5 feet. So something's not fair about that. Absolutely not fair. If I had to spend the money and I had to do what I had to do, and it was quite extensive, I had to change the entire inside of the house. So it would be very unfair for you all or anybody to approve and allow them to have 7.5 feet when I was just talking about this little 40 feet wide house. And they're talking about the whole street. The way I understand it, I haven't seen the exact plans, but I would like to for you to consider asking the designers to go back and abide by all the codes, height-wise, width-wise, everything else. Because it's not right to give a variance for a project of this size when they wouldn't do it for a little house. And they said the reason they wouldn't do it was because if I added that 2 feet on the side of my house, it blocked the view of the people down the road. And if that blocked the view, think what this is going to do. So I would like to ask you to consider that. Now, part of the plans I've seen, I'm concerned about, as my friend Rick says, until we see an exact plan, I'm not sure what they got. And I don't think y'all know either. But it's strange that some of the land is included on the plan I saw. They don't even own it. As of tonight, I just told him, he told me he still owns the lot I sold him. And as far as the HUD goes, when they said they acquired that, I owned the land at that time, and I didn't give permission to apply for anything. So it's something very strange in there going on. I don't understand what's going on. I just know what's fair for me is fair for everybody else. And I don't think there's anybody here that wouldn't agree with that. Okay. Thank you very much.
My name is Molly Bain. We have a place on 32nd Street, and I'm pretty sure that these statements or questions have already been asked, but I'd like to respectfully request that the City Council obtain a third party to research the surrounding real estate properties and what it would do to the value of those properties, as well as the culture of this wonderful little town. The other thing is one of initially we talked about capacity of this boutique hotel. What is the maximum bed capacity? And that's any type of bedding, pull-out couch or sofa bed, whatever. That would be the other request. Thank you very much.
If there's no further questions, we'll move on to the action item, which I believe involves the council or the board's discussion, and if there are any possible motions that would like to be made tonight. I'll start if no one minds. as I said at the beginning of the meeting, it's great to hear your concerns. I noticed no one got up and spoke in favor of this and explained why they thought it was a good thing. Just an observation. As to Mr. Ponder's concern about setback, if the zoning were changed and the PUD issue was put to bed, whereas you own a private residential home, this would fall under different restrictions, and the setbacks on the commercial properties are different in the book. You know, that's not something we can change. Do any of the board members have any questions or discussions for us?
I just have a comment. I think that it's a pretty easy issue for me if one does a critical analysis of the LDR and the plan the way it currently exists, and then the past history going back as far as 1999. It's pretty clear to me that the plan is inconsistent with the intent of the LDR. I mean, particularly hearing the comments from the members of the audience out here. And also looking at the prior history, I realize that this is an issue for the board, but I don't see how a PUD could possibly exist given the history that's happened in the past.
Right.
If one looks at the clear intent and the plain language in the LDR, those are just my feelings on the matter.
And we appreciate it, and as you say, those aren't for this board to decide. Those are council issues to deal with. Any other input?
I feel the same way, that, you know, it's not presently zoned for a PUD. And until that issue is settled, we've got nothing to talk about here. So if the council wants to rezone it, then
That's up to
then
them.
you can come back and we can talk about these plans again. But
Would you like to maybe propose a motion that something like we task the city council to resolve the zoning and PUD issues prior to the board making any kind of recommendation on the development itself?
yes, I'd like to make a motion that until this rezoning issue is resolved,
And
that
the
we
PUD.
take really no action here, that,
And the PUD,
and thus, yeah, the PUD.
okay.
It's my understanding that they've hired an attorney and they're looking into it.
I think our city attorney's looking into it, isn't it?
He is, it's across his desk. I would like to make one comment, though, if I could, please. Normally, staff would give a recommendation to this board as to what we feel is appropriate. In light of the fact that this document has been fluid, as indicated earlier, we can't shoot at a moving target. At this point, we are not sure whether they want to go with the PUD zoning, another type of zoning and things of that sort, and because of that, we don't have a recommendation. The only recommendation we have is it's up to them to tell us exactly what they want.
And I think that's the motion that's been presented is that same sentiment. Do I have a second?
I second.
Should take a roll call on the vote?
I'm going to read it back first.
All right, sir.
Motion by Mr. Giesling, that until the issue of zoning and the PUD is addressed by the council, planning and zoning board does not take any action. Second by Ms. Kidder.
And I have a second.
Pretty close. Perfect.
Yep.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Giesling.
Yes.
Chair Teal.
Oh, did you say Mr. Teal?
Chair.
Chair.
Chair. It's my first night as the chair. I'm in favor.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yes.
And Ms. Kidder.
Yes.
All right, that ends the action item on discussion and possible recommendations. We have one more item on our agenda, and that is miscellaneous code enforcement concern. which I'm not sure the board is up to speed on.
You would be correct.
Oh, just a moment. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jeremy Novak. I'm an attorney on behalf of the Corey family. And, Mr. Chairman, I understand you just took a vote with regards to passing this on for further clarification from the city commissioners. I just wanted to comment on behalf of the Corey family for the folks that are here tonight, as well as this P&Z, as well as the professionals that have come. It was an excellent plan, and we thank you all for your time. Going back, and I'm not going to give everyone in the room the history, but for over 50 years, the Corey family has paid the taxes on this property and nurtured this and has been a part of the community. 16 years ago, they came before the people that sat in these chairs before all of us and made a PUD application. I understand there's been comments and discussion tonight with regards to the PUD and the process, but one of the very important things that the Corey family wants to emphasize is they want the public input. They need the P&Z's blessing and input. And they have a contract for over a year to potentially sell this property. And they're sensitive to everyone's comments. And I think it's very important that everything that they've heard, Mr. Jack has heard everyone's comments tonight. But one thing that's very important that we all not lose focus on is the process. And for the last 16 years, the process has been in place. There's been a question with regards to the legality of the PUD. The P&Z has been placed here by the city council tonight for this process. Under your LDRs, and City Manager, Mr. Mello, if I'm correct, you can correct me. The reason that this has been placed and the reason the professionals have been working for the better part of the past year is because the city council at the time instructed the Corey family, the applicants, all the people working in conjunction to present this to you tonight. Yes, you like it and it meets the LDRs. No, you don't like it, doesn't meet the LDRs. It's insufficient and it's incomplete. Come back with more information. But the one thing we need to keep in mind is we need to protect the process. The family's done the right thing. Everyone's worked according to the city council's instructions, and I understand now you're asking for further clarification. We were at those meetings back in April when the city council gave us that instruction, told us to get with the applicants and come back with this presentation. So we followed the city council's instructions, and we have not missed a beat. We just simply ask that we continue to follow the process on behalf of the Corey family. The PUD is in place, and that's why we're all here tonight, to hear the public's comments. Does it meet the LDRs? Does it not? Would you like more parking? Would you not? Is it inconsistent? Do you need to reduce the density, the setbacks? All those things are on the table, but they need to be the discussion. It cannot be simply dismissed as being invalid. And I'd simply ask you all, I thank you for your time. We'll come back next week. We thank the public very much for their input, but we want to continue the process, so thank you.
I have a question. You said the PUD's in place?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I understand that the P&Z is now asking that legal question. I understand the city staff's here. The taxpayers in the community want the answer to that as well.
Oh, yeah?
But I can assure the P&Z that the city council has advised the Corey family for the better part of a decade and a half that the PUD's in place. And we've all moved according to the city council and each elected official's instructions. So tonight the question's here, and I respect some of the opinions and the legal opinions that have been brought and sent into you. I've read them all. But please understand that we're all here tonight because there's a PUD in place. This process is not happening without a PUD tonight. We're not having a public hearing without a PUD in place. So the question of zoning, I understand will go back to the city council. We have a new city attorney who's reviewing, I believe, the issue. He said it came across his desk. And on behalf of the family, the applicants, and the people that have invested a tremendous amount of time, the public included, the overwhelming response from the ex parte communications to you has been extremely impressive because everyone has an opinion. But that's all part of the discussion, and the Corey family simply wants the P&Z, the council, and the public to all be a part of that discussion and continue it. The worst thing that this can happen right now is to cut it off without following your LDRs, and that's all we ask.
Thank you. Okay, so if you would enlighten us on the code enforcement issue, please.
I'd like to call upon Mark Stengel, our code enforcement officer, to go over those couple of items that we had been discussing.
All right, sir.
Did you have that list with you? I know we talked about it, but I left my list at the office.
Did not.
Okay. We just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on a few things. Number one, I think, was yard complaints, overgrowth, and all that type of stuff, that everybody understands.
Stand here.
Yes, sir.
That's the majority of them, okay.
All right.
We just want to make sure everybody understands. I'm sure everybody up here on the board gets complaints just as well as I do and Mel does every day at the office. There is a process to this. Once I make contact with them, whether it's face-to-face, with a letter, whatever the case may be, they have so many days to comply before we go to the next step. So it's not just a quick fix it right now or, you know, this is the alternate. It's not that simple. We just want to make sure everybody understands that. And that's with any issue that I have to address, whether it's overgrowth or property that we're having issues with, whatever it may be. There is a process to the whole thing. We do keep everything on record, and I would ask if any of you get issues, complaints, anything like that, please keep myself and Mel in the loop on all that so that we can address it and we're not finding out 2-3 weeks down the road and it turns into a much bigger issue. Just some minor things. And if any of you have questions or anything like that, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to sit down and go over that stuff with you.
Thank you, Mark. Before we request an adjournment, I'd like to ask Mel, our last speaker was pretty emphatic about the PUD issue. And I've been to the council meetings and listened, and I went away with the feeling that we haven't gotten a bottom line yet because of the previous design that was submitted for a PUD and a lot of other questions being raised by council members themselves. What is your understanding of the PUD issue?
Sure. As you know, I serve the people and I work for the city council. The majority of the city council has voted that the PUD does exist.
Okay,
Really?
so
2012, 2015?
It didn't happen in 2015.
What happened in April?
In April?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
can I ask you a question, then, Mel? Okay, then if they're saying a PUD exists, okay, then LDR 203.11, once approved, all future developments must conform to the approved standards. So are we talking standards that were submitted back in 1999, which was, let's see.
20-room hotel?
Yeah, 20-room hotel, 16 multifamily units, and small retail development. Because that's the way I read LDR, so we're not talking about what they're talking about. If anything's approved, it should be the 24, 16, and the small retail development.
My place is not to argue with the Plan and Zoning Commission. My job is to do what the board tells me.
I understand.
So I'm not an attorney. I will not play one on TV or any form or fashion. So let it be
What is
said.
their position on that, though? I mean, they come out with a position on that?
Well, that's part of why our motion tonight, we're asking him to review that and give us a final bottom line. Is this a PUD? Is it a mini PUD? What can or can't be built on it? If they say it is, and we're gonna rezone it, and then we can take up the issue of this presentation and have our own input on what we see. And I think that's why the motion was brought, was because we're not, I can't address this if there's still a commercial tourist residential zoning issue, and maybe there is no PUD issue. That's for the council to tell me. With that in mind, if there's no other comments or discussions, I have a motion. Oh, yes, sir?
I'd like to say something.
Just one moment.
Should I come to the?
Yes, sir. We're going a little out of format, but this is a little more casual than the commission.
Thank you for the indulgence, Mr. Chairman. My name is Keith Milner, 3220 Highway
98. I am not a lawyer, let me say that from the outset. I'm vitally interested in this issue, however. I've read 2 different legal opinions that reach the conclusion that there is not a valid PUD status for this property. I've read no legal opinions to the contrary that says there is such a status. Mr. Novak, I wish he were still in the room, is a lawyer. I'd like to see his legal argument for why there is such a status. Overarching all that, though, is, and I believe you made the right move, and that is to put this back in the lap of the council, which in my opinion has not considered the legal aspect of this and come to a firm conclusion. The right answer is the one that I hope will be forthcoming from the city's attorney. And so I'm pleased that you made that recommendation. I'm glad that the motion was unanimously carried, because I think that's vital to get away from the hearsay, especially from all us non-lawyers, and let's definitively put this thing to rest one way or the other. Thanks again for the indulgence.
Certainly. Have another comment?
Sure. And I didn't sign in, so I don't know if you have to swear me in or anything.
Hearing's over.
Okay, thank you. I'm Dina Frost, and I'm here with my husband, Jay Frost. And we came tonight to get information, to see what was going on, not knowing that we would be singled out as being on one side or the other, because that's not where we feel our position is. We love Mexico Beach just like everybody else does, and we want the best growth for Mexico Beach and good things. And we get to see more from a business aspect, people coming to us that are looking for jobs, how hard it is to stay in business through the winter, things that people that are here retired don't see. And so we see it, as growth in Mexico Beach should be good for everybody. Now, they're not putting it next to my house, okay? So I understand that side of it all too. But I just wanted to, speak out and say that there may be some very good things that come from this for Mexico Beach. And if we are in control of what happens, then it is up to us to make sure that it does turn out the best way possible for the people here. And that's, that's how we feel about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, I'd like to comment. I certainly didn't take a show of hands to make any kind of division or create the Hatfields and McCoys. I was just interested in, maybe this is representative of our community, a cross-section, and I was just interested in sort of the ratio. Now, maybe those that are in favor, there may be a bazillion of them out there and they didn't choose to come to the meeting. I don't know. Certainly all the correspondence that has come to the council and the board members, we haven't heard from people and reasons that are in favor of this. And I invite those, if anyone's listening out there, I'd like to know what the pros are and why those people feel that way, so that give me a better understanding. And one final comment, one of the things the council, I'm sure will and is tasked to do, is represent the will of the people. And in order to do that, they have to have a good feeling about the yeas and the nays, so to speak, in order to say, wow, well, 80% of our community is dying to have this project put in. It's something they want. Or on the other side, 80% of our community is not in favor. And that's something they certainly have to take into consideration as this process proceeds. And again, I'm just explaining that I wasn't trying to create any kind of a one side or the other.
Not
I was just
like that could ever happen in Mexico Beach.
yeah. I just wanted to get an idea in the room of sort of cross-section. But with that being said, if
I
there,
have one clarification of the minutes from April 14, 2015. Motion was made by Councilwoman Blackburn that the parcel between 33rd and 34th Street not be zoned as a PUD, and the motion died for lack of a second. Following that, there was a motion by Ms. Blackburn, second by Mr. Tindler, that Mr. Kamara determine if the property between 33rd and 34th Street has been legally zoned as a PUD. That motion also failed 2-3.
Okay,
So,
That's
just for background,
incorrect. There you go. With that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, can I-
I motion we adjourn.
Is there a second? There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? This meeting's adjourned.